Welcome to V-League Weekly, and we're on location today. We're going to look back over week 8, week 9. Hi, Eamon. Well, I'm on location. You've been around. How are you doing? Where are you?
I'm good. I'm at home in Hanoi now with my very unglamorous backdrop. I'm in my apartment, but you look like you're somewhere incredible.
Yeah, I'm at the beach down in near Hoi An, having spent a few days down around here, having a little bit of a break, and it's, as you know, it's a nice part of the country.
Lucky you. Good stuff. Well,
but you've been around. You've been on your northern tour. I'm down here. We took a week away from doing the podcast, so we've got a good amount to look back on, really.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, where should we go? Where were we? You were in Haiphong. Do you want to start there?
Yeah. About halfway through the tour now. So I've been to Haiphong and Namding. I went to see Haiphong to see them play Saigon. This is a side of my age, though. I saw the game a couple of weeks ago, and my notes for that match are not currently with me, so I'm working from memory. But yeah, it was a great little trip. The stadium sort of nestled right in the city centre. I actually missed it. I was on my motorbike going up and down that main street. I don't know if you had this experience, but I sort of missed the entrance to it twice. It's like through this little gate, and then you go through the gate, and then you see, oh, there's actually a stadium there, so that's nice. Brilliant hot dogs, sausage on a stick things, which are incredible. I had 2 of them. And you go into the stadium. I don't know if it's by design or by accident, but the layout, I was kind of sat in the kind of quieter section, right? So I'm looking out across the pitch to where the noisier Haiphong Ultras are sat. And then the backdrop is just mountains and fluffy white clouds and beautiful. We watched the game. It was like a 5 p.m. kickoff. So sunset, obviously. That was really nice. The football itself, though, oh goodness. I made a reaction video to this game, so I'm not going to lay into Haiphong too much. But suffice to say, I think the fans need something to get excited about, because as soon as Saigon went 1-0 up, the atmosphere kind of just dropped, it was quite subdued. I watched Haiphong play Vitel a week later, though, last Saturday, and their away contingent was fantastic. So let me just say, 90 minutes, 4-0 down to Vitel. The away contingent of the Haiphong fans were brilliant. They were shouting out the team's name. They were playing the drums with their flags. Brilliant support from the away fans. But the home stadium just was a bit subdued, and I think Haiphong have a lot of work to do.
Sounds like fans at a lot of Premier League games.
Yeah, indeed. I mean,
Old Trafford, the Emirates, yeah.
yeah. Then after the game, we were at the Beer Hoy and tried to talk to a few of the fans there, and they were really quite down on their team. They just were saying their English wasn't the best, and my Vietnamese wasn't the best. So I'll put that out there. But there was a lot of grunting and sighing, and it wasn't the party atmosphere that those Beer Hoys have seen before, I'm sure. But Haiphong will be back, I'm sure.
Possibly. Well, maybe we'll see, because you mentioned that next result, so we have to go there in a bit. But week 8, for me, the best game, that Ho Chi Minh City Bin Dung game was fantastic. Bin Dung raced a 2-goal lead with Gustavo, got a brace in that, and they were really good, Bin Dung. And Ho Chi Minh City, after the break, came out all guns blazing, just dominated, just bashed, like in possession. Lots of crosses, but not really too much of a threat. Kong Fung pulled one back late on, but I think this was a bit of a sign with Ho Chi Minh City. They're still missing that threat. It's been talked about a bit, that threat up front. Like, they were really good, like possession-wise, second half. The pressure they were putting on, but it wasn't really great deal of clear-cut chances to get them back into it. It's like, oh, okay, they're going to ride this one out here, Bin Dung. Like, even though they haven't got the ball, like, they were pretty comfortable, I thought. So Ho Chi Minh City, after returning to the top, they lost there. Saigon went top spot, didn't they, after winning there in Haiphong?
Yeah.
I was at Hanoi Viettel, and I think they listened to the pod, because they've made a few changes that I mentioned in our last pod. I noticed that.
That's exactly what they did.
the fullback, Van Tien was back as a fullback, and it's like, oh, blimey, here we go. He's been listening. Someone listen. But they were still equally as ineffective as Hanoi have been in recent weeks. Really lacking up front any sort of creativity. Romario got a penalty. And who got the goal for Viatel? Oh, yeah, it was Hwang Duk. Bruno was impressive again for Viatel, I thought. His assist was fantastic. The pace to keep the ball in and cross, and Hwang Duk got the goal there for Viatel. But again, yeah, I'll talk a bit more about Hanoi in part 2 with the trip to Da Nang. Just lacking creativity, lacking a lot of ideas. It was a big crowd. It was a really good atmosphere. As Hanoi were technically away, there was a large number of Viatel fans as well there for that game. And yeah, as you mentioned, Viatel, for me, Viatel, apart from Bruno's quite excited. They've got some good players. Hwang Trong and Tien Zung in the defence I quite like as well.
Yeah, Tien Zung.
They lack a bit of identity, but as you said, it seemed to click in game week 9 for them. So we'll go there in a bit.
Do you think Hanoi have learned not to listen to the podcast again then? So they've made the changes. They've probably learned not to listen again.
Well, they got a point compared to no points the week before.
Good point. Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, they got yet another injury off following that game. I believe Tai Kui, who was one of the strikers I was saying, attacking midfielders that should come in, he got injured. So their injury list now is 12, I think. They had to name three goalkeepers on the bench recently. Didn't have enough players to name on the bench. So the injury crisis continues. Bit of a problem there with Hanoi, I think. With
just to stay with the Hanoi thing. I mean, how much would you look at the injuries and say that's the main reason they're not challenging this year, or is there something else missing? Because Alex Ferguson also used to say every season, you know, if he was managing the Man United team that would win the league twice in a row, he'd look for that hunger going into that third season. He'd ask the players, how hungry are you? So are you seeing a lack of desire there, or is it just down to the injuries, or is it a mix of the two? What do you put it down to?
Bit of both. Yeah, I think it is a bit of both. That desire is a little bit there from not the whole team, but because certainly some of the players have got it. Banquet is still giving 100% every game and looks devastated every time they drop points. The injury is a lot. The injuries certainly come into it, but it's also a little bit. I've said the last couple of years they got a young lad on a winger, Ho Min Z. Well, I think I mentioned to you before. He's been on the bench literally for like 3 or 4 seasons, and even last season when Hanoi had been 4-5-0 up, the coach makes the same changes, the same players come on, and he never really came on. He got a little bit of game time, and not often. Those matches, he should be getting 30 minutes when they're already 3-0 up. And I feel that some of these young players that are coming in, they don't look sharp in terms of, you know, V-League 1 match fit. Like, with their team. Sure, they train with these guys every day, but they seem to lack match practice, if that makes any sense. There's no reserve league that they're playing in. These guys just literally have sat on the bench for 3 years with just a handful of appearances. So I wonder if that sort of, looking back now, like sort of blooding these youngsters then would be beneficial now when they're needed. They have to start. There's literally no other players, and they're not bad players. They look quite good, a lot of them, but it's just, you could tell it's not clicking and gelling throughout.
There's nothing to lose, really. I mean, there's a gamble now. We could start playing those players. I mean, Hanoi are in a relegation round now, you know. So
he is playing them. He has to play them. But they could be not as inexperienced as they are had he started playing them last year or the year before, when they literally were on the bench.
I see.
When the team was 2 or 3-0 up, they could have just brought them on for some game time to get them sort of more integrated into the first team setup rather than. But now it looks like they're kind of sort of slowly getting there, but it's pretty late. We're 9 games in. But
yeah, so it's a question of
like you said,
it's a question of
potentially into the relegation section of the league.
Yeah, they are, and so it's maybe a case of expectation management then for these young players. So they're being given game time, but they're being thrown into the lion's den, perhaps. How much of a pre-season have these teams had, though? I mean, I suppose that comes into it too. If they'd had, there's been disruption with the lockdown as well. So I don't know. Maybe that
Well, there
applies
was a
to all
regular.
teams.
Yeah, it applies to everyone, doesn't it? But there was a regular pre-season. I think they went on tour to Malaysia. Hanoi did, and that was back in December, January. So they had the pre-season, and then of course there was the obviously the lockdown and the delay for quite a while. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. But on other news, fullback John van Gaal is on his way. He's coming back from Holland. They could not agree a fee to keep him there, and once he gets on a flight, spends some time in quarantine, a couple of weeks, then gets a little bit of match practice, match fitness, he'll be back in right at the end. So we'll have a left back again.
The saviour. It's going to be a saviour. There's an
Yeah,
interesting
no,
conversation, like, to be had. I suppose we could do it on a future podcast about the benefits of Vietnamese players developing abroad. It would have been interesting to see if he'd stayed at Heerenveen, how his career might have developed if he'd been given more game time. If you look at Korea, for example, there's a huge amount of national pride about players that played abroad. If you think back to Park Ji-sung and Son Min-hyung, right? Sonny at Tottenham as well now as well. But yeah, hopefully he can come back and make a difference for Hanoi. But deep down, heart of hearts, I guess next season is the one for Hanoi to bounce back, get back to full strength and go again. I can't see it happening this season.
Quite possibly. But we'll see. Yeah, it's a shame he didn't stay in Holland. There's rumours they wanted to keep him, but there's something in Holland, in the Dutch league, that you have to pay like overseas players or import players. They get like 450,000 euros a year. That's like the minimum they have to pay, I think. So the club are like, hey, we haven't made any money for a while. We're in a bit of financial difficulties. And they were trying to negotiate that Hanoi paid a large part of that.
Right, that's always going to be a tough ask.
Considerably more than a player earns to play in the V League. So
considerably.
They couldn't get a deal going on that. But there's no doubt he's benefited from his time there. And it'd be quite exciting to see him in the V League. But I'm quite sure he'll be heading back somewhere. The club president has already said, like, yeah, he'll come back and play, but we were already looking for him to have opportunities in Europe again. So
yeah, I was looking on the official Facebook FC Hanoi fans page and translating some of the comments, and there was a mixed bag of responses about that. I mean, I think more so welcoming him back as a kind of welcome back to Vietnam. You've learned a lot in Holland. Now come back and use that in your time playing for Hanoi, or as you say, maybe get a transfer to another team. Then a few comments were also about how it would have been nice for a Vietnamese player to develop abroad in one of the major leagues in Europe. But yeah, I guess we'll have to watch this space as far as Van Hoo's concerned. So that was week 8. Was there anything else from week 8? My memory's a bit dusty, a bit foggy, but I think that was just about it. Ho Chi Minh City losing, of course, as you said. But then, of course, it kind of all changed around going into week 9.
Certainly, yeah. Well, should we cut to week 9 in part 2, I think?
Yeah. Sounds good. Should we let also let the viewers, listeners know that we're having a new technology day today? We're using Zoom platform. So any glitches will get ironed out in future podcasts. We'll just put that out there now.
Yeah. We're not tech experts. So.
All right. Well, let's look at week 9.
That's the end.
Yeah, let's look at week 9 in part 2. See you in a few minutes. Go. Okay, bye.